And so it's the same with medical care. Would you rather have a government-owned medical care facility? You think you're going to get better care? You know you're going to get worse care. Everybody knows that. It has nothing to do with racism. It has everything to do with realism. Jimmy Carter is a liar. He's a stone-hearted liar, and he's the worst president in American history, and I think he's a cracker racist to his core. That's my opinion. Chicago, Sirius, you're on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Dr. Savage, a pleasure to speak with you. I was just going to comment on your Jimmy Carter commentary. The reason Jimmy Carter was so antagonistic towards the Shah was because the Shah was the single most pro-American and simultaneously the most pro-Israel leader in the Middle East, and because the Shah enacted policies within Iran which brought Iran back into the 21st century, brought Iran into a cultural paradigm of the West instead of, the backward 7th century, time set. And Jimmy Carter.
Right, and you could argue that Jimmy Carter is a racist for having taken the Iranian women in particular and put burqas over their heads. You could argue that Jimmy Carter himself has caused more damage to human rights around the world than any single American.
Absolutely.
You could make that argument and you wouldn't be wrong. How else would you explain when you have a resurgence of radical Islam around the globe because of Jimmy Carter? And remember what radical Islam stands for: the subjugation of women, racism, the death of the West. If that is good for the world, I'd like to know what's bad for the world. But it's all because Jimmy Carter brought the Shah down and brought Ayatollah Khomeini back from Paris where he was in exile. That's how I analyze this historical reality. And so for Jimmy Carter to sit here now and say that the protesters against Obama are racist, you have to look at the source from which such a statement is coming. Thank you for the call. 1-800-449-8255, michaelsavage.com. Mark in Houston, you're up on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Yes, sir. I think it's an interesting irony that for years we were characterized as a racist nation because we hadn't elected a black president. And now that we've elected a black president as a country, the audio clip you played a few moments ago seemed to indicate that now we feel free to exercise our racism.
I don't know what it means. I really can't understand it, but they're all saying it's racism. It's not anti-socialism. It's unbelievable to me how many different ways liberals will play the same lie. No, the people can't be hoodwinked again, and they're not going to be browbeaten with liberal guilt anymore. It's enough already with the liberal guilt. You should be guilty. Shut up. You're doing it only because he's black. You could argue they're doing it because he's white. Isn't Obama half black and half white?
Yeah,
well, no, I'm asking. You want to talk race? Obama had a white mother and a black father. I mean, it's an embarrassing thing to talk about, but I keep hearing he's black, he's black, he's black, he's black. Why can't you just say he's white, he's white, he's white, he's white? He is a multiracial candidate. Wonderful. That's the new world we live in. Why are you harping, these leftists, on the fact that he's black? He is multiracial. They're the ones who are making his blackness an issue, if you think about it, Mark.
Yes, sir. And it just seems like it's a...
Why don't they ever take the issues themselves and discuss the issues rather than reverting down to what they used all their lives to get ahead, which is saying the race word, race card, race baiting, because that's how they got ahead. Their whole life has been built on beating white people up with race baiting and embarrassment. Well, guess what? I don't want this anymore. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it. I won't take it anymore. Jimmy Carter can go back where he came from, Mr. Peanut. The worst president in history. New York City. Jimmy, WOR, you're on the Savage Nation. Go ahead, please.
Yes, for several decades, the Soviet-controlled U.S. Communist Party in their literature, which I have, was writing like, capitalism is racism. To destroy racism, you have to destroy capitalism. Then
let's pause right there. Let's deconstruct every one of their lies. Explain, since you're an expert on communism, Jimmy, how many blacks there are in Fidel Castro's upper echelon of leadership in Cuba.
There are no blacks in Castro's government. In fact, the blacks in the...
Fidel Castro is a communist dictator. Raul Castro is his brother. Although they claim to have a society of equals, and although Cuba is very much an Afro-Cuban nation with many lineages, predominantly African and mixed with Indian folk, there are virtually no people of let's say, African origin in Fidel Castro's inner circle. I know that's a fact.
100% true. And yet the majority of blacks in Cuba, according to communist surveys, love the Cuban Americans and don't like Castro. So there's a problem in Cuba now for Castro. He's lost support of the blacks that he claimed to be aiding and helping in Cuba.
Why do you think that is?
Because the younger people don't remember the old days, and the propaganda is not working, and they know that the Cuban Americans send money, and the Cuban Americans are trying to work to free Cuba. So the loyalty.
All right. So the classic, one of the classic tactics of the Communist Party was to use racial animosity between the races in America to try and break society down. That was your primary reason for calling, correct, Jimmy?
Right. And also
okay, so where do we go from here? But why is Jimmy Carter professing this communist line?
Well, Jimmy Carter is a liberation theologist. He's a Marxist masquerading as a liberal Christian. He helped topple 5 or 6 countries to the Soviets. Somewhere between 3 and 5 million people were murdered by the communists during Carter's reign. And the Congressional Black Caucus are fanatical Castro supporters, even though Castro's flooding black neighborhoods with cocaine and drugs.
Wow, that's quite a statement. That is quite a statement. I mean, the drug part of it. I mean, why do you accuse Castro of being the drug lord?
Well, we know from the Soviet defector, General Jan Sezhner, the book Red Cocaine was written based on his testimony, that the Soviets, through Castro, one of their goals was to create terror, crime, and racial trouble in America, largely through drug use. And he set up drug networks and penetrated other independent drug networks. The goal was to flood America with drugs. The money was not the main goal from the communists. It was to destroy American society. Money was a way to drive people to get into the business. But the leadership of it...
Jimmy, it's worse than even I think. In my worst moments, you make me actually feel that it's much worse than even I fear.
It's a lot worse than people realize. John Conyers, who's anti-police, sent condolences to Gus Hall's funeral. Gus Hall, the Communist Party leader. I was there when they read the letter from Congressman John Conyers, who calls for investigations of the police in New York and elsewhere.
Well, that's why I give money to police organizations. He can go you-know-where. He can go to you-know-where. I give money to police organizations and police families that survive, because without them, you know what we'd have in this country? They're the only ones who have the guts to stand up to the gangbangers. Who's going to do it, Marvin and the ACLU? Who goes up and stands up to those gangbangers? Tell me who does it. It's the police, whether they be local, state, national. It's only the police to separate us from total chaos.
You have to destroy the military and the police in capitalist countries, because that's how a capitalist country will collapse. And so they have plans, long-range plans, and they work at them.
I think an overwhelming portion of the intensely demonstrated animosity toward President Barack Obama is based on the fact that he is a black man. Racism inclination still exists. And I think it's bubbled up to the surface because of a belief among many white people, not just in the South but around the country, that African Americans are not qualified to lead this great country. It's an abominable circumstance and grieves me and concerns me very deeply.
What a horror that this Jew hater, Jimmy Peanuts Carter, would say that anyone who criticizes Obama's social policies are racist. You know, you could argue against this so many different ways, and it's embarrassing that this man is still on the world stage. It's an embarrassment. I told you I had a professor when I was working for my doctorate at Berkeley. He was a very bright doctor, and he said to me, the first thing that older people lose is their judgment. Jimmy Carter has lost his judgment. I mean, he's a long-time left-winger, that we know. And he would naturally be defensive about Obama's policies. That I can understand. That's his bias. But to pull out the race card at this phase of his career, not understanding that the American people are not going to buy it, number one, and it's going to further marginalize Jimmy Carter, number two, shows that he's lost his judgment.